finally finished the wiring on the module. I'll give you a little tour. I have 11 Circuitron tortoise switch machine motors for my turnouts, and I have a Digitrax DCC system and the LocoNet cables here. I made that. I bought a kit from Digitrax that had a crimper, 50 feet of cable, and then a number of connectors. So I made some of those up. The power strip, it powers the DC power supply. There's a small power supply for the PR3. And I spliced into the power cable for the power strip, and that goes to a power switch on my panel. And here I have a resistor board that limits the current through the LEDs. I use 300 ohm resistors. I have it on a 5.2 volt supply. It's about 17 milliamps of current. It might be a little bit high. I'm going to try it, and if I have to, I can add some resistance to knock the brightness of the LEDs down if I have to, but I really haven't looked at it very much on the DCC Specialties PSX ones, solid state circuit breakers. There's an output here that shows track status, whether there's power or not to the track. And those don't need a resistor, so if the brightness of the LEDs is about the same, I'll probably leave it. But here's some of the wiring. And the tortoise machines, they power frogs on all of the turnouts except for the double crossover. And they also control the bicolor LEDs. So the LEDs will be green on the normal route, and then they'll be red on the diverging route. And so when the switch machines switch, they also switch the LEDs. I use a bunch of terminal blocks in here and try to keep the wiring as neat as possible, but after a point, you just get so many feet of wire that it just gets messy. I have the one PR3 that I mentioned that has a USB interface for the computer, and I have 3 DS64s. The switch numbers I have marked on the DS64, so I know which is which. And there's the USB connector to the front panel. I put 2 of the Digitrax, I don't know what they're called, they're little modules for plugging in your throttles. I put one on each side of the module because I'm going to have industries on both sides, so that way if I need to, I can either move a throttle or I can pick up a different throttle. And I thought that would be better than trying to stretch the cord all the way across the module. These red and black wires here, they go back to the PR3, and it's the programming track, and I have it set with a double pole, double throw switch that has an off, so that it's on, off, on, and that'll switch between the DCC system and the PR3 to program the track, and I've isolated that piece of track. All the feeders have been soldered. All the connections are soldered. There's no suitcase connectors or anything like that. Everything's been soldered. The main bus is 10 gauge, and the connectors are 10 gauge as well. I used a connector that is, well, you can only hook it up one way. And as long as the polarity of the wire is correct, then you shouldn't have any problems connecting module to module and have any polarity issues. So the main bus is 10 gauge, the track buses are 12 gauge, the track feeders are 20 gauge solid core wire. So that's it. I'll flip the module over and show you the other side. The rotisserie is pretty nice. I would definitely recommend building one if you're going to do modular, layout. And working on the electronics, it was just so easy just to flip it over and work on it. And all I have to do to test it is just roll it over, plug it in. And I'll hook up the DCC system so I can power it up. This switch turns on the 12 volt and 5 volt power supply. And I haven't decided what I'm going to do with the DCC system yet, whether I'm going to make something and mount it under the module for the DCC system, or whether I'm going to have it separate from the module. I haven't decided that yet. I think until I have the module off the rotisserie, I can think about it for a while. Turn on the DCC system. And these LEDs go to the PSX1s, and once I turn on track power, it tells me I have track power now. And for the different turnouts, go to the switch number, and you can see when they're closed, the LEDs go green. And the switches are thrown, they turn red. And I have it set up where I can control the turnouts through JMRI with the computer. If I hook up to the laptop through the USB cable. This is my switch for the programming track. Up, it's normal, it's run to the DCC system. Down, it's for programming. And I have manual momentary switches on the front panel. And they also control the turnouts. So I can control the turnouts 3 different ways. Either through the panel, through the throttle, or through JMRI with the computer. Well, the wiring's done, and now I can start working on the top.